Greetings, my name is Stacy Nelson. I'm part of Thinking PE, and today we're thinking rubrics. So let's think about using rubrics and where to even start. And I guess the place I would guide people to is the benchmarks on the standards, either the national standards or we're in Minnesota, so we have the Minnesota State Standards. And I'm going to use the example of the jump rope benchmark. So we're zoomed in here on the kindergarten, first, second grade benchmarks here. And you need to know and understand those. And often they give a nice progression of how this skill should go. So in kindergarten, they have a single jump with a self-turn rope. Then you reset and they go again. By grade 1, that should be consecutive and they should be able to do a few in a row. And then grade 2, they should be able to do forward and backwards. So I guess to back up, grade 1, they can choose whether to do this forward or backwards. Some students just find it easier to do backwards, and so that's why they allow that in grade 1. So that's knowing the benchmark. I'm going to cut this off again. Greetings, my name is Stacy Nelson. I'm part of Thinking PE, and today we're thinking rubrics. So let's think about how to use rubrics and actually where to start. And I guess I would guide people to the standards and the benchmarks. For our example today, we're going to use the benchmark with jumping rope. That's we're going to focus mostly on the kindergarten, first and second grade area, and they do a nice job of showing progression here. So you start there, and then from there, at least in our group, we took these standards and then we went, once we had the benchmark, we made our rubric. And this one was fairly simple because it's pretty well laid out. And we just made a progression. We took their progression of kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. And we made it a pretty simple one. So it's the same rubric for every grade. And then kindergarten would just only have to reach level 2 to twirl the rope once, followed by resetting, and then go once and reset. First graders, it needs to be a little bit more fluent, and it says continuous, and this is where some of the discussion can come in around what is continuous. Our group decided that 2 or more was going to be considered continuous. Then second grade, instead of in first grade, they have to do a single rebound forward or backwards. Second grade, they have to do both. So that's what our rubric is. And then you take that and the wording of it, and then you put it into practice. And this is where it gets interesting, because we found that as well as we designed our rubrics as a group, when we went out and practiced them, we came back, some of them we were just really frustrated with. We were like, well, who in the world wrote these? Well, I guess it was us. So we get to rewrite them. And so some of our rubrics are on their 3rd and 4th time around, and that's part of the process. That's what you need to understand, is that a rubric really looks good on paper sometimes, and then you start implementing and you're like, oh, this just isn't making the sense it's supposed to. So what I thought would be a fun exercise to do is, I'm going to put on here which these students do you think meet the standard. Just play about 30 seconds of a class, and you're going to watch the rubric is defined below with 2 or more consecutive jumps. They can choose to go forward or backwards, and just look around and see how many of these students and which students you consider making from the brief glimpse you get at them, and which ones you do not. Take a peek. So just scan around from left to right and see who you think is able to do. Like the girl in the middle right now, is that consecutive or is not consecutive? Was she stopping or not? Is that fluent or not? These are some of the things, if you're going to have a rubric that's consistent across buildings or across teachers, you need to get those definitions down. So hopefully you scanned around and you can pick some out that are definitely fluent, and then there's some that you're not quite so sure. So in a simple rubric, that seemed pretty cut and dry, you could see there's some that was like, oh, I'm not quite sure. And those are the things to work out. So the idea then is once you've done this, you go back to your rubric. And step 4 would be then you're evaluating your rubric. You created it, you practiced with it, now you evaluate it, you twist, you tweak it a little bit, and you go back and forth and discuss with other teachers, other professionals. We've even done it where we've taken, like I'm doing here, and shared it with other teachers and asked them if they thought the same thing and they interpreted these jumps the same way I did. So hopefully it was a fun little exercise to do to get you just thinking about rubrics. They're very useful, but they do take some tweaking, and the language is very important in them. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and that's thinking using rubrics.